YouTube, this is Drews, and I've just acquired two more of my Samsung quantum dot panels. There's a previous video on my channel from about a couple weeks ago where I did the unboxing of the first one. I didn't feel like it was really necessary to redo the unboxing of these other two. I've got them set up just, kind of basically on my multi-mount arm there, and I'm going to go ahead and get hooked up here in a bit. I sold my my pair of GTX 1080s for $1,000 and ordered the monitors, which I got on sale. Like, they were normally $349.99, and they were on sale for like a day at like $263 a piece. So I definitely jumped on them as I had the opportunity. And then, like I say, I was going to get a pair of RX 480 video cards, and lo and behold, I was doing a little reading on these R9 Furies with the 4 gigabytes of high bandwidth memory, and they are about 20% faster than the RX 480s, and they were on sale for $259 a piece, and there's a mail-in rebate available also for them for $20 off each card. And my folks sent me a $50 gift card for Christmas, so I got the two cards here for less than $500. And each, or together, they are about 10 to 15% faster than a single GTX 1080 was. So yes, I have less performance overall than I did before, but I wanted to play around with AMD, their new AMD Relive software, the AMD, I think it's called Freeze or Chill, that's supposed to help their cards run at better temperatures. And then I have all these monitors, which of course are AMD FreeSync, so I wanted to try all that out. So this is the setup. We're going to do Crossfire R9 Fury 4 gig HBM cards, and we're going to do a three-way AMD Eyefinity 144 Hz quantum dot display setup here. So I'm going to go ahead and pause my recording for a minute, and I'm going to go ahead and get these in the system and get drivers installed, and I will continue from there. So I'll be right back. I decided to go ahead and kind of film the unboxing of one of these cards just so you can kind of see what they look like. This is the Sapphire Nitro edition of the R9 Fury. It's not the Fury X. The Fury X would have a liquid cooler. This obviously has just the 3-fan version instead, but these are supposed to be pretty good cards regardless. Let's see what we got here. Take off this plastic and try to get this out of the box so you can see they've got a pretty big freaking card there. Pretty beastly. And I think these use 275 watts of power apiece. They have, as you can see, there's three DisplayPort 1.2 ports. There's a single HDMI, I believe it's 1.4B. Unfortunately, these don't have HDMI 2.0s, but you can get an active adapter to convert any one of your display ports into HDMI 2.0 for like $28. They have them on Amazon, so they're not that bad. And then they have an old DVI-D port in case you're still using a monitor that uses that technology, which can also be adapted and so forth. Like I said, I think they use 275 watts of power, and they take a pair of 8-pin PCI Express connections. I always use Sapphire when I go with AMD, or occasionally Vision Tech, but Sapphire is usually my brand preference. I think their cards are pretty high quality. They have pretty good warranty policies, to my understanding, and I've never had a problem with any of their cards. Not that I've used a ton of AMD cards of late. These will be actually the first ones I've used, I think, since I had a pair of what did I have? I had a pair of R9 290Xs was the last time I had like a serious AMD setup in my desktop. I had a RX 470 for like a couple weeks that I used for fun with my Alienware graphics amplifiers to try it out, but these will be the first ones in a while to take a place on my desktop. I don't believe these use, as you can see, there's no like Crossfire connector or anything, because AMD cards after the R9 290X series started using, they just talk across the PCI Express bus. They don't need a bridge anymore. NVIDIA cards still use a bridge, so these will not require a Crossfire bridge. I do have one somewhere in a box, but luckily I won't have to dig it out because, like I say, these don't need it. So I'll go ahead and pause again, and I'll get these in the system, and we'll start doing some driver installations and so forth. One moment. One other thing I wanted to show here before I put these in the box is this backplate on these things is really nice looking. But the card itself is actually not that large physically, as you can see. Like the card PCB stops here, and then the cooler continues on all the way out to here for the third fan that's about at this point. But because HBM is a stacked memory technology as opposed to being spread out across the PCB, they can actually shorten up the card quite a bit. In the case of this one, obviously, like I said, they went with a big cooler, but the ones that use like a smaller cooler, make these cards quite a bit smaller, so they're good for like the R9 Nano is what they call it. That is basically on par with this, or maybe even a little bit faster than this. It's kind of similar to the Fury X, but it's what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, like they're very small, and so they're good for like an ITX build. And as you can see, like if you wanted to remove that cooler for whatever reason and put like a small water cooler on it of some kind, like using an NZXT Kraken, I'd have a video on my channel also that shows one of those on what the hell is it, GTX 980 Ti Classified Edition. But you can put those on pretty near any card. So yeah, like if you wanted to pull again the larger heatsink fan assembly off of here and put like an NZXT G10 Kraken and then like a Corsair H55 or similar water cooler on here, you could probably get the temps quite low. From what I understand, these run a little bit hot, so I'm a little bit curious to see how they do. But again, I just wanted to show the back plate is really quite nice. That's the front and that's the back. And now I'm going to go ahead and get them in the system. So I'll be right back. You can see AMD's website freaking sucks. Look at this crap. How slow this is downloading from them. I have a 300 megabyte or megabits per second cable connection, and it's going to take like 15-20 minutes to download freaking drivers from their site. Their site sucks. Anyways, I have all the monitors on and the cards are installed, but until I get drivers installed, it's like these monitors don't really detect that there's a signal coming to them, and so the menu options are limited. Like it needs a signal from DisplayPort to actually start enabling certain settings. So I have to wait for this. So I'm just going to pause this again, and I'll pick it up here when it allows me to do this. I have to run display driver on installer and wipe out my NVIDIA drivers before I can install these, and obviously they're going to take a while to download. So I will continue in a little bit. Okay, we finally got all three of them hooked up. I don't see any dead pixels. I've got AMD FreeSync enabled on everything. As you can see, it did successfully create a group, although I had to try like 3 or 4 times. It's like it doesn't really want to be real cooperative in that regard, and it's slow to apply the settings, but it's doing 3 monitors. Maybe it's a little, I don't know, maybe it's a little complicated for it. You can see the resolution is 3240 by 1904, which is kind of bizarre, but that's basically a 3K resolution. It reads my AMD processor, R9 Fury series. Monitor is running all of them are 144 Hertz, which is cool. This is the only way to really do this kind of resolution and keep this sort of refresh rate. So we've got our settings here. We do 3D, or excuse me, GPU Z. And Crossfire is already enabled, it says. And it's reading our Fury series cards. Now the fan speed's pretty low. I probably need to get like an MSI afterburner so I can set these fans up a little bit, because they're idling at 40, which isn't bad. That one's at 36, but I'm used to idle temps in like the high 20s, so I'm going to have to probably fiddle with that. But let's load up a game here. I'll pause for a second and load up something and to see if it'll successfully run on all the screens. I'm going to go ahead and run Firestrike. My 1080 SLI setup was scoring like 27,000 in this, which, as you can see, like some of these guys are ridiculous. Kingpin, I actually know that guy a little bit. His name is Vince Lucido. He works directly for EVGA, and they give him his Kingpin cards, and he does liquid nitrogen cooling and so forth, and he's usually the top guy on here, or in the top 5 definitely, but usually the top guy. So I'm going to go ahead and see how this runs. See if it errors out or does anything weird. But kind of see what sort of scores we can hope for. See if it'll load up at all. One thing about multi-monitor setups is they can be a little bit strange. Some games just don't support them very well, or like will take longer to load, or will, you know, crash out or whatever. So I'm hoping not to have any problems with this. Alright, it's trying to load. One thing about these monitors being curved like they are, I think they would be better, at least, although I think it would be hard to play because it'd be very wide, to do it in a standard landscape orientation. Let's see what that's running at. Oh, that's not a very good frame rate compared to what I'm used to. I was getting about 240 frames a second. Now you can see it's 150-ish. Kind of flailing around there. I mean, it's still good. This is what I should expect, though, actually, because like these cards altogether, like I said, the two of them are about as fast, as a little bit faster than a single GTX 1080. So this is really what I should be more or less expecting in performance, I guess. I'll pause real quick, and when it finishes, I'll show you what score I get, because this is going to take like 8 or 9 minutes. You know, I am really, pardon the word, but fucking impressed. That's almost a 23,000, and that's at stock clocks. Now they're not going to be the 1080s no matter what I do, but at stock clocks for the GPUs and the temps, like the fan was kind of auto ramping itself up there. Let's see what temps. Like that one's back down to the 40s already. That one's back down pretty low already, but the main GPU is still trying to cool down. But they dynamically ramped themselves up to handle the temperature increase. But it didn't look like the temps ever got much beyond like the high 60s or maybe like 70-ish. I have some pretty good fans in my system. I have large 144 millimeter, or excuse me, 140 millimeter NZXT fans. In the two of them in the front that blow right across the cards, and then the cards themselves exhaust air out the, well, they blow downward, but most of that gets pushed out the back. And then I have a large 144 millimeter fan above them that should pull the air out the back of the case. But that is an excellent score. That is excellent. I'm for the price, this is $500 worth of video cards doing this right now. You know, this is either SLI just didn't scale very well for some reason, or this is, like, these cards scale extremely well. I think they might have a DirectX 12 benchmark on here. Yes. I should try that. Go with the demo. But this is a DirectX 12, and AMD cards should be pretty excellent DirectX 12 performance. So let's run this one and see what we get. And then I want to load up like a game, and then I'm going to call that good for this video. But I want to see how this does. Because like I say, AMD's DirectX 12 performance is a pretty good amount above NVIDIA's. I think anything below 4K, and these cards are going to dominate everything just fine. I might just rock with these for a while. I want to wait and see what the 1080 Ti and the RX 490 have to offer, and see if they're amazing, or if they're really not that much better than like the 1080 was. And if not, I might just use these for a while. These are actually pretty nice cards. But we'll see. Hard to see. I don't know if this is not focusing it. There it goes. Kind of have to get really close to the screen for it to pick it up for some reason. It's a little bit bright for it, but this is a pretty nice experience on this. Like I said, my only gripe with these monitors being curved like they are is they don't really mesh together super nicely because of that slight curve at the base of the panel. It's like you see there's little gaps between the monitors. I'm having a hard time getting them to line up just perfectly, and I think if they were instead placed into landscape orientation, you know, like the edges of the monitors would fit more snugly together, and you would have like this uber wide panel. But I've never liked that a whole lot. I always feel like it's a little bit like you have to turn your head to the left or the right to see everything, whereas this, you know, it's just like it's kind of like having a really high resolution TV, although it's still not 4K, so I guess, you know, my TV over here is still higher resolution. You can hear the fans kind of ramping up a little bit. I don't know if you could hear that or not, but they definitely are kicked up a little bit. But this way, you know, I can have both a very high resolution experience Wow, that might be some of that coil whine I've heard about. They're a little bit loud. But anyways, so like I said, you can have a high resolution experience and maintain your high refresh rate, which you wouldn't be able to get on a single panel because they have to run across, your single display port. Wow, listen to those getting loud. You hear that? Holy smokes, those are loud. I'm used to my water coolers. They're a lot cooler, quieter than this. I don't know what temps I'm getting up to, but that's pretty freaking loud. Well, I'll go ahead and pause for a second here, and I'll restart the video when we have a score. I'll be right back. Alright, so that got a little over 9,000 points, and honestly, I don't know if that's good or not. I need to load up here and do like a comparison. Well, so this is better than 95% of all results, so that's probably pretty good. I don't know if I don't think I've run this test a whole lot. 3 mark, time spy, I've only ran it a few times. What did we run on? Okay, so on my 1080s it was getting like 12,000, and this is getting 9,000, so the 1080s definitely did it better by quite a bit. I don't know if it was properly utilizing Crossfire. I kind of think DirectX 12 may not do that, because like my second card, the fan speed sat at like 22%, and the first card was like, you see how freaking high like it was like a vacuum cleaner in here a minute ago when I had the video on pause. You're lucky you weren't listening to it because it was freaking loud. But yeah, I'm gonna have to download MSI Afterburner so I can deal with these ridiculous fan profile auto ramping up and being stupid loud. That's just unacceptably loud. Because the fan, like I said, got up to like 92%. It was not good. But it ran very well. Like I say, the frame rates were quite nice, and that seems to be a pretty good score. For again, like, this is the power of just over one GTX 1080, and yet it did, only a couple thousand points less. So pretty good. I guess what I'll do is load up one game. I might try to do like GTA 5 if I can get it to load. I have a lot of problems with that game. It's like it doesn't like to load for me for some reason. So I'd like to load that up and see what its benchmark does. And we'll see from there. Hold on, Tell you what, I'm going to pause this a second and try to load that game up. If that doesn't work, I'll try something else. 1 second. Alright, you can already hear the fans are just kicking up ridiculously, but let me try to run the benchmark here and see what happens. This thing is acting pretty loud. Getting pretty crazy loud, so hopefully, like I say, after this video, I'll go find MSI Afterburner and manually set fan speed so they're about 50%, 60%. See how loud that is. It should be a lot more tolerable. And then if I game with headphones on, it won't be a big deal. But for recording, it's a little bit of an annoyance. Like when I record with a monitor or whatever. Now this is running at the full resolution that we looked at earlier, like 3240 by 1900 something. We'll see what it does. This game is a pretty big memory hog too, and these cards, although they are using high bandwidth memory, they only have 4 gigs of memory, so, and you don't double your memory or anything when you run Crossfire or SLI. So for this, the only thing I turned down was anti-aliasing, because it was at 16x. I turned it down to 8x instead. Everything else is on maximum settings right now. You can see it's sitting pretty much right at 60 frames a second. Holy shit, there goes the fans. God, that is just awful. But yeah, like I say, you can see it's doing a pretty good job of running it. I'm going to have to deal with that fan. Holy crap. I've never heard a fan get loud like that. AMD and their Fireball GPUs. Let's see how this does. Now this isn't 4K, of course. This is, like I say, 3 times 1080p instead of 4 times 1080p. But obviously running nice and playable. Now on my previous setup, I could do full 4K and get 60, 70 frames a second. But those cards had 8 gigabytes of video memory instead of 4. And although they weren't using high bandwidth memory, NVIDIA has Micron's GDDR5X on their cards, and it's not as fast as high bandwidth memory, but it is pretty fast. I think it's only like 10% slower or something. So 8 gigs there definitely starts to shine in these kinds of resolutions, as opposed to now, like if you wanted to play obviously 1080p, but even like 1440p with these cards in Crossfire like this, obviously they can handle it, because this is, again, I don't know how many pixels, like 2560 by 1440 is quad HD, and like I said, this is 3240 by like a little over 1900, so that's more. Seems to be keeping pretty good frame rate. Now this is with FreeSync enabled. I kind of wonder if FreeSync is trying to keep it around a certain range, and maybe that's like if that has an effect on the frame rate, or if I shut it off, if it would be the same. But there's not been any image tearing that I've seen, so I think FreeSync is doing a pretty good job of keeping things looking nice and smooth. I'd say it was averaging, right around 60 frames a second. Well, that's pretty much where I'm going to cut the video off. It's already gone over 20 minutes, and I know a lot of people don't want to watch a video for that long. So I appreciate everybody watching. This has been Drizzle. If you have any questions about the cards, or if you have any questions about these monitors, please feel free to leave a comment in the area below the